Your voice, your opinion, your community. Fact TV, free speech protected.
A lot of sunlight.
Good morning, Bellows Falls, and welcome to the feed. We're back in studio. It's been a long time. We still have our winter set on. That's how long it's been. Last time we were in the studio, it was winter, but we're back. We're going to get springtime going here in a little bit. Today we have a special show. We have Kelley Tully, our new representative, with us, and she's going to be talking with us about the whole process of getting involved with the legislature, how she was picked, and then what she's doing, and all the things that we're all curious to hear. But first, we're going to have Marty talk to us a little bit about Rockingham Helping Helpers and local events.
So Rockingham Helping Helpers, they're still rolling along. They are, as I spoke to you about last week, they're starting to do some paper surveys so that they can reach people that need assistance that might not be able to fill out a survey online. So be looking in strategic locations for those. They're also reaching out to everybody that's volunteered and asking them, really how, if they still feel that they can help, because they actually have, at this point, they have more volunteers than helpers, but I don't know if that will always be the case. So you will either be getting a phone call or an email if you were on the volunteer list, and they'll be just kind of assessing, where you're at. Are you still able to volunteer, and that type of thing. And their donations, they want to do a big shout out to everybody that's donated. They have a good amount of money to purchase the items that have fallen through the cracks. And any money they want to emphasize that any money that's left over will be equally split between our place and Parks Place. So the money will still be donated to a service organization, if they, at some point, they don't need to utilize all the funds. So I just wanted to make that really clear to everybody that money won't stay in an account somewhere not doing good. It will go out to either Parks Place or our place. So I'm super excited for our guest today, longtime friend and classmate, Kelley Tully. And I will probably say at least 3 times Kelly Coda during this, because that's just a habit. So welcome, Kelley.
Thank you. So this is all new to me, and it's been a pretty exciting ride. I've been actually, as of yesterday, it's been a month since I've been sworn in. And when I was sworn in, it was the clerk of the house and my older brother and myself, and it was a completely empty house.
Wow.
And we all had our masks on, and it was kind of surreal and a unique experience. And they were certainly, everybody has been really helpful. And I've only met everybody other than my district mate, Carolyn Partridge, who's been a wonderful help in showing me the ropes. And she's been at it quite a few years, so she knows the ins and outs. And she's always very helpful and answers all my questions, or at least sends me to the right location for those answers. And so she's probably the only one I've met in person. Everybody else has been on Zoom, has been on phone calls, things like that. So that's how we've been really managing all of our meetings and the house sessions, and getting everybody up to date on not just Zoom, but how we do some remote voting so that it is, certainly secure. So that's been, it's been kind of a learning curve for everybody. And everybody is always saying, well, I'm so sorry that you're not having the house experience. And I said, well, I'm not missing something I never had. But it is a nice group of folks, and they assure me that it is even nicer when you're in Montpelier.
So you're in session now, right?
Yes.
And how often do you meet?
Well, we have 2 house meetings on Wednesdays and one and then again on Friday. So we will, and then we're mixing it up next week. We're trying to, all of the bills that we're seeing, sorry about the ringing phone.
Yeah.
All of the All of the work that we're doing, all the bills that we're reviewing right now are really COVID related. So it's about how we can continue to do normal procedures and things during the so we can keep government and everybody else going, such as doing wills and advance directives from a distance, and being able to do functioning of whether it's corrections and having meetings from, with a secure video conferencing, just to make sure that it's legal and that we do it. So a lot of that has been focused on that. There are other things, certainly budgetary, that is a big focus for us right now.
Yeah, but I guess you have to figure out how to run everything before you can run things, right? And that's
Yes.
that's a really important thing.
Absolutely. And Mitzi Johnson, the Speaker of the House, she's really helped, is, I think, running a pretty good ship, because she's really taught everybody and keeps everybody up to date and on task. And she's, pretty darn organized, and it's really nice to work with her.
Did you end up on committees?
I am. I'm actually, so I replaced Matt Trieber, who was on Judiciary. So I am on Judiciary. And that is, again, the committees are representatives from all over the state. And it's a great group of people, very knowledgeable. And they've been, we're on live. So all of our things, somebody really wants me. Everybody is on Zoom, and then we go live, so you can see our committee meetings as well as our House sessions live. If you just log into the Vermont House site, you can actually see where all the live streaming is. So you can watch any committee, because if you were actually in Montpelier, you could sit in the gallery and listen to a House session, or you could go to the committee rooms, and if there was room to sit in there, you could do that. So I think that part of it's really pretty wonderful for people to have access.
And actually, it might even be more access than they would normally have, because they can just dial in. They can be from home. Actually, I hadn't thought about it that way, but it's really opening up government in a way.
And
some people have more time too.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's interesting is, much like we have to get used to using Zoom and realizing that we're live, we always have to remind each other that if we're live, that was only the first probably week, to remind people that we were live, and that you mute yourself if you have something that you need to say. Or so again, back to when we were, all this COVID experience, that we're gonna take some of everything in our lives with us, whether we now are super good at washing hands. We knew we should have been before, but now we really are good at washing our hands. And we may have to take the mask thing with us for a while. Maybe we'll take some of this legislative stuff with us. Maybe we'll be able to be accessible, that's speculation. I have no idea, but like you said, it's really kind of interesting that people can have access right now to a lot of stuff they normally wouldn't have.
Yeah, that's sort of an unforeseen consequence that,
Yes.
it worked out that, where you would think it would be less accessible, it's actually in a way more accessible. That's really fascinating.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I also think that, moving forward, maybe people will have more reasons to be aware of what the government is doing, and what, I think we've been skating for the past few years and not really paying much attention. And now we really need to pay attention to who's representing us, what's happening in government. I'm talking at a little higher level, but certainly it starts at the state level. And, right. To be able to take some of these things forward and make meetings more accessible to people is a great, like you said, Mike, unintended consequence.
Yeah.
Right. And I think maybe, Mike, you started it by having Fact TV show all of the board meetings, select board meetings. Now they're like, oh, that was a great idea. We should do this at the state level.
I really can't take credit for that. I have to give Alex credit for all of that. He's much more on the ball with that than I am, for sure. But I guess my next question would be, you were on the judiciary because of Matt, but are there things that you're interested in the future in pursuing, or are there caucuses that you've become involved in, or yeah, how's that working from that point of view? Because you're like the brand new. This is like a blank slate for you right now. You could write whatever you want. So
Yeah, absolutely. They do have a lot of different ones that they do announcements for if you're not aware of them. Certainly, I'm very aware of judiciary because we have at least 3, if not 4 meetings a week to talk about the different bills that we're working on. And they do have, I'm going to be joining this afternoon, the Rural Development Caucus. So we're working on that. One of the other, I just heard, I was looking for where that met. And so I hooked up with one of the other representatives and just asked to send me the Zoom link. And that's really what it's about. We also, I have met with the Workers Caucus, and then we talk about all the things that are facing everybody in the workforce. Certainly right now it's all really related to COVID and who's in the workforce, who's not yet, and how that, is affecting everybody's family and certainly their income. I am also part of the legislative action team, and we're working with the Department of Labor to help solve some of the unemployment backlog. Mm-hmm. So I spend a lot of time every day doing that and talking to constituents who are experiencing some difficult communication, whether they're on hold and so we have a system that we're assisting the Department of Labor with that as well.
I think you guys are doing an amazing job on that, just from watching and because I know that those systems, everybody's criticizing those systems from the 70s, but that was never a priority. It was like there was money to be spent everywhere, and are you going to go back and fix a system that actually is clunking along, but it was doing the job until it got just, it went from needing to deal with thousands of people to be dealing with hundreds of thousands of people. And it's right. Just, and that they've adapted so quickly, I think, is really a testament to the state myself.
I think everybody's had to kind of pull together on that. One of the things is that you're absolutely right. It was an old system, and the joke, certainly was that I was thinking of it was cobalt is the system. And I'm like, well, I remember that back in high school. And they said, well, they're going to have to pull people out that know how to program cobalt. I'm like, I don't know if they're still alive, but but that was one of the things, like you nailed it on the head there, that it wasn't overtaxed because we had a fairly low unemployment rate in the state. And so it could kind of churn right through what was normal. And this was far from normal. So we kind of did tax the system literally, and it didn't. So they've come up with different systems, and it was a group effort. It was everybody. It was certainly the House and our leadership and the Department of Labor willing to let us help them.
Yeah, because I think that's a unique thing. Maybe I don't know if that's unique to Vermont, but I've heard that that legislatures are actually working with and helping through the problems as opposed to just letting the I don't want to say bureaucrats in a bad way, but letting the people that were tasked with doing it. You're really helping out and adding value to that process. That's great.
Right.
So I want to step back a little bit and just have you say why you wanted to do this. Like, I mean, kind of a lot to put on your plate at a crazy time, but you didn't know the crazy time was coming, but still.
That is very true. I did not know that. Well, I mean, just like everybody else, whether we say it in a public forum or not, we're always questioning some of the processes and why the government comes up with some of the rules and regulations that they do, or decision-making process, and we can all have an opinion certainly about it. And I just felt like I had something to offer that was different than some of the things that we have seen in the past. That certainly I'm a lifelong Vermont resident and Rockingham resident, and that we are very attached to our community and we want the best for it. And I think we have, a lot of history here. We've constantly had to reinvent ourselves, so that's not anything new, certainly to us. And that also working, in a business and also working for 25 years in acute care, that I felt like I had a lot of different experiences and don't get me wrong, I have a lot to learn as well, but I thought I brought a perspective that was a little bit fresh, and I'm hoping to bring some common sense that certainly that we value. But again, there's a lot of people in government, whether it's local, certainly at our local level as well as in Montpelier, that people put a lot of time and effort in the best interests. And I think one of the most important things that I've learned, whether it was just doing some of the, local government groups and now in the House, is that it's good that we don't agree on things. Because without disagreement, we're not going to have change. And that certainly what I've learned, certainly in the later part of my life, not when I was maybe in my 20s, but if you listen more than you speak, you have a chance to actually learn something. And I might think one thing, but then as I listen to these people who've dedicated a lot of their time to trying to make things better for everyone, not just themselves, certainly, that I'm like, wow, I didn't think of that perspective before, and that's very helpful. And some of when you ask Mike, some of the caucuses that I might not have been interested in, I just actually hear about them. I'm like, I should just listen. That's something I might not know enough about. And some of those Zoom meetings that I agree to go on to, it's just so I can really hear a bigger perspective than Wyndham District 3.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I think that's the key to just about everything, that if you can listen and learn, and then, and I do agree with you about a disagreement, because that's where innovation comes from. It's not
Right.
from, if everybody agrees, we're all going to do the same thing forever. That's going to be
If it
crazy.
ain't broke, don't fix it.
That's why we have the COBOL system.
That's right.
Exactly.
Not anymore.
Oh, it's really nice having you on. It's a refreshing change. I'm excited too that you do have such an interesting background, that it should, I mean, to be a Democratic business person, a Democrat who is a business person and has that perspective, is going to bring a lot of balance to everything. Because I think people have this concept of Democrats and Republicans, that Democrats are all liberal people who want to give everything away, and Republicans are all business people who want to make businesses good. But I think you have a nice common sense. I mean, that's the key. That's wonderful. We're so pleased to have you there.
Well, thank you. And I hope, I appreciate that. And I do hope to keep, this is a great forum to be able in the time of distancing to get out, and so people can see. I also hope to build a little bit more live events, certainly on Facebook and different things, so people can ask questions and access, if they want to shoot me a message on my representative site. That's a good way to do it. And again, that's new to me, but I'm getting better at it. And I do have my son and my nephew coaxing me along, and a friend pointing out how I get better likes and how I can get information out there. So that's a good thing.
Have you tackled Instagram yet?
Well, I do have Instagram, but I don't. I'm not I've not done a media posts. I enjoy watching other people's posts, but I've not done a ton of posts. But I did actually do a little session with somebody who knows it very well, and so hopefully that will greatly improve. How about you, Marty? Are you good at Instagram?
Not so much. I mean, I just don't, I get Facebook, I get how you get likes, and I get the kind of algorithm type thing. I'm not quite sure on the whole Instagram thing. And I don't even want to go into TikTok. I don't even know what that is. So.
Yeah.
Now we're showing our age, Kelley.
Well, we'll get some innovators that will help us. I know what
That's
they're
right.
out there.
Nieces and nephews that are like teens are perfect for that. Perfect for that.
Exactly.
So here we are, and I think you've hit on it before, is that you've managed to put yourself in a place at a most challenging time where you guys are going to be are really going to have to make some fundamental changes, I think, just to be able to react to what's happened in this the virus. I mean, without having revenue for 2 months, I can't imagine what the budget looks like and what needs to be done. And whatever you feel about the governor, he's really opening up the idea of there has to be conversations now about everything. Right. And you're in a place where you're going to be hearing those conversations and contributing. How do you feel about that?
Well, I feel pretty good about that. I mean, I think part of the process is figuring out what we can do with our budget. I mean, that's a big thing to see, like, what is the federal government allowing us to shift funds to? And Appropriations is working hard on that, and they do the joint fiscal committee between both the House and the Senate, and making sure that if we want for something, we just better, we're doing the best we can to figure out, well, we don't want to spend it, and then the federal government say, oh, that's not what we intended that for, so you have to pay it back. And that's just a delicate dance there that we have to make sure. And I think, working with our representatives in Washington and the Treasury and asking them questions around what we can use these funds for and how we can certainly put it where it's most needed is going to be, is the intent. And we just have to make sure we're not putting it where the federal government doesn't want us to put it.
Yeah.
That's the trick.
But it should be just incredible. I mean, just with everything that's going on, I think it's going to be. I guess that's also a Chinese curse, wasn't it, to be born in interesting times? You're going to the legislature in interesting times. Could be.
It is true, but it is. It's and I guess one of the biggest things that you hear about it, but it's super interesting in the sense that we say, oh, well, we're pretty close to our government. Well, we are. And turns out it's not just something that you say, it's something that you live, and that's something that you can do. And that and again, watching all the people of years of experience and how they navigate it and how they really are, teaching me, again, from a distance, but I had a phone call right before I talked to you, Mike, just about, what's the next step? If I have an idea that I was working on with somebody and I said, what's the next step and who do I take that to? And you can, what is it? A small group of people is the only group that can actually make a change. So we're not that big. We're not that big of a state, although the House sounds like it's big in numbers. It's not 100 just under 150 people. It's not that many.
That's
to
true.
Actually make changes for everybody.
Well, Alex is giving me the signal that we're just about out of time. I wanted to thank you for coming on, and this is wonderful, and I hope you'll come on again. Marty?
Yeah, I just want to say again, thank you for coming, and thank you for stepping up and doing this, because, it's got to be, you're putting yourself out in the public spotlight, you're making yourself accessible to people, and thank you. Thank you for doing that.
I appreciate it. I do. I appreciate the vote of confidence, and I hope that I will, certainly not let you down. And I have talked to, had a couple sessions with Mike Obahoski to get my, get my lessons and my tutoring from him. So I hope those continue as well.
Okay, well, thank you. And that's it for this week, folks. This is The Feed, and we'll see you next week. We want to thank you for being on, and that's it.